I love the look of wood in my DIYs and decor, but it can get expensive. So today we are going to use one of my best money saving hacks when it comes to crafting with wood, and that is using cheap fence pickets. This is Whiskey and Whit. My name is Whitney, and on this channel I love to share DIYs and budget home decor. So if you love that kind of content, be sure to hit subscribe down below so we can be craft buddies. Also, a huge thank you to Warby for sponsoring today's video and supporting Whiskey and Whit. We'll talk more about them in a little bit, but first, let's get into the fence picket DIYs.
So in today's video, you're going to see me use 4-inch and 6-inch dog-eared fence pickets, but you could also use pallets or reclaimed wood for this. That will also help you keep these projects super cheap. Sometimes you can find wood like that for free on Facebook Marketplace, so that is a great steal. Now, I got mine at Menards, which is just a Midwest version of a Home Depot or Lowe's. And what I would suggest is if you're not familiar with the lumber or don't want to have to go on your own, you can do the buy online, pick up in store, and that will help you. But if you want to pick out your wood, hold it up like this and look straight down and make sure it's not bowed. So here are the two different kinds, the 6-inch on the left, 4-inch on the right. And up first, we're going to use the 4-inch smaller one to make this really fun tiered tray sign. So I'm going to start by taking the fence picket and measuring 6 inches from the top so I can keep those dog ears, and I'm cutting it with my Warby saw. I will have all my tool info linked down below, but don't worry, you don't have to have a big saw to cut these. They cut decently well with a miter box. This is from Amazon. It comes with a saw in this little yellow box. It will allow you to make 90-degree cuts straight across, some 45-degree cuts as well, so that can help you if you don't have a saw to still make these projects. Now with everything we're cutting today, we want to make sure we sand it down. I would say if you plan on doing woodworking, a power sander is a great investment, but you could also do this by hand. And then I'm taking a drill bit to the size that I want and drilling my hole. Now once that's all sanded down, I'm just grabbing some Mod Podge and I'm going to do a thin coat, make sure everything's covered, and let it fully dry. Then we're going to hook the fabric to it, and I really like this because every time I would use wet Mod Podge, I would get either bubbles or it just wouldn't look good. So with the dried Mod Podge on, you're going to put your fabric on there, you leave yourself a little overhang, and heat it up with an iron. This is my Picket mini press. I have it on the medium setting. I would say on your iron that's equal to the cotton setting. Push down for about 30 seconds until it's all sealed and the Mod Podge basically is re-engaged. Make sure your edges are down, and then I popped my hole back through the fabric. I did the same thing on the other side and then finished off the edges with some antique wax by Waverly, and this thing was ready to go. The possibilities are endless. You can use that same hack for tissue paper. You can also do scrapbook paper, so whatever you have, and this is a perfect addition to my little pumpkin patch tiered tray in our front room. So we're going to build up as we go here. So this next one, we're going to make a few more cuts and we're going to use our 6-inch wide pickets. And this might be reminiscent of my snowman one that I did in my Christmas fence pickets, and that's where I got the inspiration, but this time we're going to make ghosts. I'm cutting a piece just across the back so I could brace it. That's just a 1x2 furring strip, and then I'm going to paint all of my pieces white with some chalk paint. Now I'm not super worried that it's fully covered because I'm going for a rustic look here, and I'm not worried about the back because it's going to be leaning up against something. Once I have my pieces where I want them to go, I'm going to nail them down with 1-inch brad nails. 1 inch is key here so you don't pop through the front because we're working with thin wood. I wouldn't do anything thicker than 1 inch. And if you don't have a nail gun, you can use wood glue or you can do a hammer and nails as well. Then I'm just using a black paint marker I got on Amazon and just some inspo images from Pinterest to draw on a variety of different faces and then coloring them in. These are some of my favorite black paint markers. I just recently got them. I will link them down below. So far, I really like them and they're really easy to draw with. My last thing was to seal that with some polyacrylic water-based sealer, and that is just so it doesn't get wet outside, or when I store it from season to season, it's not going to scratch the chalk paint. I absolutely love this. It's going to look really cute leading up our front walkway, and it is super quick and easy to make, which is awesome. Now you can also do a variety of different creatures like I did here. This sign is one from last year. I've got a full tutorial on it in our video from when a bunch of us YouTubers went to Salem. I will link it down in the description if you want to see how to do that. I've got a full step-by-step painting tutorial. Same thing with this one, this Sanderson Sisters. I'm not a big painter, but I was able to kind of paint by numbers style make this myself. This is made out of pallet wood, just to give you an idea. But again, I've got a full tutorial. I will put the jump link down below so you'll click it and you'll go right to the project. If you're just looking for a smaller sign or a general sign, you can use that same thought process as those other two to create this one. So I'm starting with 2 scrap pieces. These were cut down to 24 inches long, and I'm making sure I really sand them down. And the key here with the fence pickets is because they're so cheap, they are not finished at all. And so here you can compare on the left the sanded down to the super rough on the right. It's going to take paint and stain better, you're not going to get splinters, and it's just going to look better overall. I'm taking a piece of 1x2 that I cut to brace the back and nailing it down with those 1-inch nails, and I realized that it was not going to hold everything like I wanted to, so instead I just added 2 scrap pieces of plywood I just had in my scrap wood pile to help it stay together. Then I'm painting the whole thing with some black chalk paint, and then we're going to get ready to paint. Now this sign I saw on Pinterest and I wanted to try my hand at painting. If you guys watch the Latina next door, Yami, I'm obsessed with her painting technique. I will link her channel down below. I could sit and watch her all day, but I want to learn how to paint a little bit better, so that's why I decided to do that with this project. Then I added my face and some details around the outside. I added some white pieces throughout the eyes and the mouth, and then I did a couple stabs at the top of the mason jar. Once that was all dry, I took it outside and sealed it with the polyacrylic just to make sure that this didn't get scratched or anything. And I've gotten questions about polyacrylic kind of making your paint run. I like to give it at least overnight to dry, just because sometimes it might be dry to the touch, but if you get it wet again, it's going to bleed, so just give yourself some time. And then my last step was to add this really fun candy corn ribbon I got from Old Time Pottery last year. It was just in my stash. Tied it around the top. I added some raffia, which I got from Amazon, and that just finished off the entire look. It's a great little leaner sign for inside. This would also be really great on a porch, and this could also be a great opportunity for kids or grandkids to do a fun project. Now for this next one, as we make these really fun pumpkins, we're going to throw in a 45-degree angle cut. And I know it might be a little intimidating, but I promise you can do it. So I'm starting by cutting 4 pieces at 12 inches and then 2 pieces at 18 inches of those wider planked fence pickets. So they're going to be approximately 6 inches across. Then to create your 45-degree angle to start to create your pumpkins, we're going to measure 2 inches from the outside and mark it, and then cut a 45-degree angle. It's going to depend on your saw, but you can usually swing that blade to the side, and if you're unsure, check your manual. You can also have your hardware store make the cuts for you, so then you could just come home and do the 45s on a miter box as well. So then you're going to do the opposite on the flipped side so that you can get these little pumpkin shapes. And like I mentioned, 12 inches tall for the small ones, 18 inches for the large ones. So as we're sanding here, I'm going to also rock around the edges so that I don't have any pointed edges on my fence pickets. I want these to look a little bit more round. They're still going to be modular pumpkins, but the edges are going to look a little softer. Again, we're using the nail gun and the 1-inch nails to brace it. My furring strip, again, wasn't enough, so I was glad I had a lot of that scrap little plywood, and that did the trick. Then I took some 1x2 furring strips, which is what I use to frame out all my wood signs. I cut some 45-degree angles at the top, and then cut those pieces to 6 inches long so that I could stain them with early American stain to be the stems. Then I did 1 large pumpkin and 1 small pumpkin in orange, and then I did a white one for the other small one. And I wasn't worried about covering the whole thing because, again, we are going for rustic here. These are fence pickets or pallets. Again, I'm sealing here with the triple thick polyurethane by Varathane. I really do like this. I've used it on a lot of projects, and I like to use water-based, and also make sure you use a bristle brush so you don't get any bubbles. Then once everything is sealed, front, back, and your stems, go ahead and nail it on with the 1-inch nails, or you could also use wood glue because you're not going to be hanging this or anything. These are super cute. I kept them separate so I could lean them however I wanted, and they fit really cute on our milk jug here on our porch, so they might just live there. I made the other one to fit under our tree in the front of our yard, and so we're going to have a ton of fun decor this year.
Between the time spent editing for Whiskey and Whit as well as general screen time, my eyes have been telling me for a while that I need new glasses. Unfortunately, my life has been crazy busy, I haven't been able to get anywhere, and I'm the type of person that has to try stuff on before I buy because I want to make sure it looks good on my face. And that is why when I found the Warby Parker home try-on kit, it was a game changer. Warby Parker offers everything you need for happier eyes: eyeglasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. And you can shop with them online or in one of their stores. Their affordable prices as well as their high quality and stylish frames really impressed me. The at-home try-on process was super easy. I just went on their website, I answered some questions, and it gave me personalized suggestions for both my face shape and my style. So here are the 5 pairs that I chose to try on. These are the Jane, these are the Durand, and as you can tell, I'm a fan of the tortoise. I did the right in my tortoise, which is my comfort zone, but then I could also branch out a little bit and try the right frames in this lighter color as well. I think my favorite ended up being these Landon frames. I like how they fit my face. If you find a frame you like, you can go on their website and then order them with your personalized lenses. I really appreciate that they want you to love your purchase so you aren't obligated to buy after you do the try-on. If this sounds like something that would make your life easier too, try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. Order 5 pair of glasses to try at home for free for 5 days. There is no obligation to buy. It ships free and it includes a prepaid return shipping label. Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/whiskeyandwhit. Now let's get back into the DIYs.
For this next one, we're breaking out one of my favorite tools, the jigsaw. I started by drawing a triangle onto a wide plank fence picket, and I cut it out just using my jigsaw. Then I used that as a guide and as a template essentially, and cut out a bunch more triangles. I made sure to give it a really good sand so I didn't have any rough edges and it would take the paint and stain well. I also put it off the edge here and rocked my power sander around the edges so they weren't pointy, they were more curved. Now I thought these would be adorable candy corns, so I gave them a base coat of white chalk paint and then took some orange acrylic paint to do the center stripe. After that, I added some white acrylic paint to that top section and just buffed it kind of into the still wet orange paint. If you look at candy corns when they're poured in the machine, they tend to kind of meld together. They're not a clean line. And so I did the same thing with the yellow. I kind of overlapped the orange and it gave that fun effect. These were so easy to do. You can seal them if you want to put them outside, like on a walkway or in your garden, but they're super cute for tiered trays and just to add some fun whimsy to vignettes around your house. Speaking of fun whimsy, how cute are these pie slices? I originally was just going to do candy corns and then I thought these would be really cute pie slices. So to make the pumpkin pie, I painted the top orange and then I hot glued it onto some tan felt for the crust. I made sure there was space up at the top so that I could do this little scallop cutting pattern, glue it on, and then cut some more to create the kind of fun crust. I cut a strip and then I made a few more about the same size. I folded it into an accordion and used some hot glue to hold the bottom together so my accordion wouldn't unravel. Then I glued it to the top. Then to finish it off, I created a little dab of whipped cream, and I did that by cutting 6 circles. They don't have to be perfect, and I glued them end to end like this, or side to side, I guess. And then I rolled it around like a felt flower, glued the end, and trimmed the bottom so it would sit flat. Add some hot glue, put it on the center, fan it out, and you've got some pumpkin pie. Up next is the pecan pie. I took another slice and stained it with the Antique Wax by Waverly to kind of give it a nice base. Glued on the crust just like I did for the pumpkin pie. And this time I also had it stretch kind of up and around the top so that you could kind of see that crust on the top. Once I got done trimming everything, it was time to make the pecans. So to do that, I cut some dark and light strips of felt, and I started by folding it towards me, away from me, towards me again, and then continue to wrap it all the way around the outside. It might feel kind of weird, I had to do a couple to practice, but once you glue it and hold it shut, it kind of really gives you that pecan look like you would see on the top of pecan pie. Also, let me know in the comments, do you say pecan or pecan? I'm always interested on what people call certain things. I made a bunch of them and then I just glued them on in a pattern that I liked, and I really like this. Alex's grandpa loves pecan pie. It's a tradition to make it on Thanksgiving, so I thought this would be a nice tie into our decor. I also made blueberry and strawberry pie. I did that by cutting red and blue felt to the size of my wood piece, adding crust like I did on all of the other pieces, and then I needed to cut a piece for the top so that I could do kind of the crust overlay. Once it was cut to size, I folded it in half and cut out some circular shapes. This is not as fancy as if you were to cut it out with a Cricut, but honestly, I think this looks cute and handmade, so I'm totally cool with it. Once you have your little peekaboo areas, you can glue that on the top, trim it down, and then I just added a strip of red and blue respectively around the outside so it looked like the filling if you were to cut the pie open. And finally, the apple pie. So red on the top, red around the outside, crust on the bottom like we've done before, and then we're cutting strips to create this little woven pattern that you usually see on top of apple pies. Once I had all my pieces cut and I weaved them over under, I glued the piece down to the top, glued everything to each other, trimmed the edges, and then I braided 3 strips together to give you that braided top of the apple pie. Glued it down, made sure my ends weren't going to unravel, so I secured them with hot glue, and then I just trimmed them down. These have to be one of my favorite projects I've ever done for fall. I think they are so fun and cute. I also like that they're a little bit more substantial than just say like a felt piece. I saw a garland that looked like this at Michael's and I thought it would be a really cute garland to recreate, but I'm so glad I went this route with the wood. The felt kind of softens it up, gives it the whimsy, but these are so fun and they are going to be up all fall long, all the way into Thanksgiving. Okay, you guys, this is the Mac Daddy project, but I love it so much. I saw someone on Pinterest, I will link it down below, do a sign like this that said Dead and Breakfast, and I knew I wanted a Haunted Mansion version. So off to Home Depot I went, into the fence aisle, and I got this 4x4 post for $17.98, and I grabbed this other piece that is a 2x2 for $2.27. Now I bought this one because I really like the top kind of the little cutouts. It gave it a little bit more character, and also as a PSA, if you don't want to make the sign with fence pickets, you could do like a project board or an MDF board here as well and cut that with a jigsaw. Before you leave the store, make sure to head over to the lighting section, get yourself a little light or fan chain, basically what you use to hang a fixture chain I guess is what it's called, and we will use that later. So I started by laying everything out and starting to measure. I measured across that top piece to figure out how wide I wanted my sign, and I also measured down to figure out how long I wanted my Haunted Mansion sign. Once I had that, I started cutting, and don't worry, I will share with you in just a second all of my cut information. I also had to make sure that that top piece was the right size, so I cut that down. And then I grabbed some scrap 2x4s to create the legs so I could add some additional sturdiness to my post.
So now that I'm done with cuts, here is everything. This piece at the top is 25 inches from the tip to the end. This is the length that I bought it at, which is 54.5. I've got 4 scrap 2x4s cut to 9 inches, and then these wide fence pickets are cut to 22 inches, and I've got 3 of them. So there's your cut list.
Now, like we've done with everything else, we're giving this a really good sand. Then to create my base, I am grabbing my 2x4s and I'm starting by drilling pilot holes so I don't split the wood. They don't have to be huge, but you just want to get it started. And then I'm using 4-inch construction screws just to make sure everything stays. These were just in our stash after we moved. I found them and I just decided to use them up. Then we're going to continue the process all around the outside, continue to turn it and put the screws in. And then I also put screws in where the ends of the 2x4 meet the center of the other one, just to really firm it up. Then to attach my arm, I used pocket holes, which is made by this small little Craig jig. It comes with both the bit to drill as well as the one to screw it in. I put a 3/4 inch pocket hole in the top and the bottom of this 2x2. I started with just the bottom and it was not strong enough to hold up my sign. So I put one in the top and the bottom and my piece was pretty much ready to go. Overnight I stained it, and then I also made sure that I gave it a really good coat of polyacrylic so it can be outside, and then I moved on to my sign. So I've got my 3 pieces of fence picket and 2 random pieces of fence picket that I'm using to brace the back, and I put the braces down a little bit further because I decided I wanted to add some character to the sign. I used an old can of paint to put a semicircle up at the top, and then I used a pencil to just kind of freehand one side. I cut it out, and then I used that piece essentially as a stencil for the rest of the sign to give it a symmetrical look. And here's what it looks like once I cut it all out. I really like the shape, and it looks more like a hotel sign. Then it was time to paint the entire thing front and back with some black chalk paint. I made sure that was fully dry, and then here comes the stencil. So this is a file that I hodgepodged together from a pack that I bought on Etsy, so I will link that down below. I basically took the Haunted Mansion piece established in 1969 and I added in "We are dying to see you," just because I thought that was a really cute saying. So it says the Haunted Mansion, we've been dying to see you, established 1969 when the attraction opened. Once that is fully sealed with the polyacrylic and dry, I drilled holes in the top and used these C hooks that I also got at Home Depot. I will link them down below. They just had gold, so I spray painted them black. Then I hooked the other hooks onto it and pushed them up into my sign here. Very official, but that's how I knew where to drill the pilot holes to screw these in. You just want to give yourself a pilot hole so that it's easier to screw. Then I've got that fixture chain I broke into pieces of 4. Used it to hang up my sign, and this was done. That second Craig jig hole at the top was super helpful to keep it standing up, and while this may look like a big project, it is very simple once you kind of break everything down. So if you've got questions, leave them in the comments. I want to make sure that you guys are empowered because you can do hard things, you can build, you can use power tools. Trust me, I know you can.
That's gonna do it for today's video. As always, head down to the comments and let me know your favorite project. And also, while you're down there, you can check out more information about Warby Parker. Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/whiskeyandwhit. Thanks so much for watching, and hit subscribe down below so you don't miss a future Whiskey and Whit video. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!